The players have been here, but the Pads made their first appearance at training camp on Tuesday. And that means that we got one-on-ones with offensive and defensive linemen going at it. That and more on today's episode of Locked On Commanders.
Your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome in, Commanders fans, to this Tuesday episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This is your daily podcast covering the Washington Commanders, and typically this is a mailbag episode, but as you can see, we are in Ashburn, Virginia training camp going on into day 6, available to the media, so we are going to obviously be talking about training camp. I do want to thank you for making Locked On Commanders your first listen of the day every day, and don't forget that you can subscribe for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast, and you continue this conversation with me along with so many other Commanders fans over at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders. Of course, I'm your host, David Harrison. You can also find me on Twitter at dharrison82. I am a staff writer, beat reporter covering the Washington Commanders for Commander Country, a part of Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation. So you can find all that there as well. But I'm also here with you every Monday through Friday, along with our everydayers. And as always, I appreciate all your support for the program. On today's episode of Locked On Commanders, we're going to hear from 3 Commanders players at the end of today's episode that I got to interview on Tuesday afternoon. So make sure that you stick around for that. We're also going to have our 6th installment of our Howell Watch and a play of the day that's a little bit different, thanks to the Washington Commanders being in pads for the first time this training camp session. And that, of course, is the story of the day, pads. That means we're one step closer to real football. It's starting to feel and sound like real football to the fans that were back in attendance, to the media that were in attendance, and of course to the players themselves, as you will hear about here later on in the program. Now, practice is always a good time, but it's a little bit different when the pads come on, especially the first time, and one-on-ones. That's kind of the biggest. So once you realize there's pads coming, you realize there's one-on-ones coming, and those, of course, are always exciting. We spoke to receiver Jahan Dotson about that just yesterday on yesterday's episode. So if you missed that interview, go back to that episode, check that out as well as some thoughts following that day of training camp. And, he kind of mentioned, like, there's a little bit more grabbing going on, a little bit more physicality going on. You're not full-blown hitting each other. Obviously, you're still teammates, and you still want to keep each other healthy and all those things. But there is a little bit more physicality to this thing. Now, the receivers and the cornerbacks did do some one-on-ones, but I watched the offensive and the defensive line. So I will watch the receivers and DBs next time that we get an opportunity to. But for today, I stuck with the trench guys for multiple reasons. One, the offensive line is the bigger question, right? We've been talking about the offensive line all offseason, this remade unit. Only one returning starter. If you look at Sam Cosmi, starting right tackle last year, now he's a right guard. So, if you consider him a new starter for the right guard position, then you've got 4 new starters. So obviously how they're gelling and how they're getting along is going to be a big story. So I decided to stick with the offensive linemen, watch them as they went through their one-on-ones with the defensive linemen. But I will next time, like I said, watch the receivers and the DBs and give you some insight into that. Now, as I watched the one-on-ones with the offensive line, defensive line, I charted every single rep. So every single player that went up against every single player, I charted the matchup, and then I wrote down who won, lost, or if it was a stalemate. And again, this is according to my criteria, right? Everybody's a little bit different, and football is certainly subjective to a certain level. Some wins are obvious. If a defensive end comes off the line and just immediately blows by his guy and gets to where the quarterback would be, then obviously that's a win for the defensive end. But sometimes there's a little bit of debate. John Keim of ESPN and I were standing next to each other, watched this one certain rep, and I was kind of like, I think that's a win for this guy. And he was like, yeah, could be, but also at the same time, when we think about this, we kind of went back and forth, just kind of discussing it. And, at the end of the day, I don't know if he marked it down as a win or a loss. I know what I marked it down as, but I don't know what he marked it down as. So some close reps, certainly. But for the most part, according to the standings of each player, Chase Young, let's start there. Obviously, he's a hot topic. Has been looking good all training camp and looking faster than I think I've ever seen him. Certainly bendier. He had 4 opportunities on the drill, 2, 1, and 1. So 2 wins, 1 loss, 1 tie, stalemate by my count. We had wins against offensive tackle Charles Leno Jr. and Trent Scott each, and then his 1 loss came against Trent Scott. It was actually really interesting. He had the loss to Trent Scott, and you can kind of see the frustration on Chase Young's face. I don't want to speak for him, but you kind of get the feeling that in his brain he's going to say, I'm Chase Young. Like, I don't lose to swing tackles. You know what I mean? So immediately the two went at it. I don't know if Chase called him out. I don't know if the coach said or he said. I don't know who resulted in, but they immediately lined up when again, and the second time they went, Chase Young absolutely smoked them. So got the win on that one. Speaking of Charles Leno Jr., didn't lose any single reps, came away with one stalemate, and that was against Charles Young. Number 93, Jonathan Allen, had 2 stalemates from my count, but was really close. Could have called it either way, honestly. That may have been the one that John Kime and I were talking about. Both of those reps came against interior offensive lineman Saahdiq Charles. So that's what you want to hear from your new starting left guard. Daron Payne had 2 wins in his 3 trips, didn't lose any. So the lone stalemate came against Sam Cosmi. And if you go back to earlier this week, if you're watching the press conferences that the Commanders are sharing on Twitter, he kind of mentioned going against Sam Cosmi and how Sam has kind of given him some challenges that he hasn't really had before. So kudos to Sam Cosmi there. And then offensive tackle Jared Jones-Smith. I don't know how. I don't know who he upset. Maybe he was late for practice or something, but he got matched up against Daron Payne twice, and Daron Payne, there's a reason Jared Jones-Smith is not starting on this team right now, and that's not a dig, but there's also a reason that Daron Payne is one of the highest paid defensive linemen in the NFL, and he showed that on those reps. Number 90, Montez Sweat, looked really good as well. On one specific rep, he pushed Andrew Wylie right into what would have been Sam Howell's lap. Of course, you don't want to see that from your right tackle, but you love seeing it from your left end, and so it's kind of a mixed bag of reactions because you want to see Montez Sweat dominating, but you also want to see Andrew Wylie dominating. That was the only matchup between those two that I was able to observe. Number 63, Nick Gates, got a really good stonewall block on defensive tackle John Ridgeway. John Ridgeway tried to hit him with a bull rush, and Nick Gates wasn't having anything of it. Overall, the starting offensive line, however, went 0-1-3 against Washington's starting defensive line. Again, John Ridgeway not a starter in this circumstance, so that's kind of how that went. But look, 3 stalemates means neither guy wins, which means the offensive lineman didn't just completely manhandle his opponent, but he also didn't let him get to the quarterback. So when you're looking from an offensive line standpoint, you might call that a win anyway. But, given the criteria, that's kind of how we marked it up there. So 2 players who went undefeated by my count were offensive tackle Alex Akingbulu and defensive tackle Benning Potoa'e. And some standout moments from the drills include Montez Sweat again taking Wylie for that ride, but also rookie defensive end KJ Henry hitting a super impressive, super quick inside move to get inside offensive tackle Cornelius Lucas for a very impressive, very fast win in their one-on-one matchup. Phidarian Mathis got what you would call a late win, working as interior offensive. Keaton Sutherland looked kind of like a stalemate, but a little bit later in the rep, Phidarian was able to separate, get past Sutherland. So I kind of gave him like maybe a half-point win for their good effort for both guys either way, to be quite honest with you. And then there was a stalemate between Jonathan Allen and second-year guard Chris Paul, where Allen certainly got a push on him, but Paul was able to keep him from getting to where the quarterback would have been. So I called it a stalemate again. If you want to look at it and say, well, Allen kind of steered him, then you might call it a win right off the line of scrimmage. But again, Paul was able to protect his quarterback, so I gave it a stalemate between the two because neither of them really dominated. William Bradley King also had an impressive win using an outside move on Cornelius Lucas. So obviously Cornelius Lucas not coming away a big winner from today's drills. And then there's our play of the day, which is a unique type of play of the day because it's going to come in the form of 2 plays, and it also didn't come in team drills. It came from this individual drill. Towards the end of the session, undrafted rookie free agent offensive lineman Mason Brooks lined up on the interior of the offensive line against second-year defensive tackle Phidarian Mathis. Now, Mathis, as you'll remember, was the Commanders' second-round pick last year in the NFL draft out of Alabama, and Brooks is an undrafted free agent rookie this year coming out of Ole Miss. So there's some history there. While Mathis isn't exactly a dominant pass rusher or expected to be a dominant pass rusher, he's more of a space eater, run stopper, block eater type. Nobody expected Brooks to necessarily win that matchup, especially as easily as he did. And the kicker is he did it twice. All right. He beat him once. They lined up again. They reset the drill, and Brooks handled Mathis in both reps. Actually did better in the second rep than he did in the first, and ended up with Mathis face down on the grass. So it was a little surprising, but, shout out goes out to Mason Brooks. Phidarian Mathis, I'm sure, will be fine. Talked to him after the practice of the press conference, and he seemed fine, of course. So I'm sure everything will be okay. But, again, one guy's got to lose, one guy's got to win. Mason Brooks got the win. There also saw Jonathan Allen working with Chris Paul on the side following the individual drills. Of course, you love to see that. A veteran defensive tackle, one of the best in the game, mentoring a young offensive lineman on how to stop the likes of him. So you love seeing that kind of thing. Speaking of working, quarterback Sam Howell is continuing his development, and we're going to discuss his performance on day 6, along with 3 player interviews to end today's show. That's coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode of Locked On Commanders is brought to you by eBay Motors. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Football host Vinny Iyer to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week all season long. Whether you're preparing for a draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So with draft prep underway for the upcoming season, let's see who Vinny has picked out for us in this week's eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. If you're looking to park an elite running back in your fantasy football garage after the top half dozen options at the position have been taken off the lot, expect Lions rookie Jahmyr Gibbs to be a roaring engine as he takes the lead role in an overhauled backfield. The real first round pick is a steal as an RB2, possessing the talent and pedigree to deliver big immediate results in a loaded offense. Vinny Iyer from Locked On Fantasy Football is going to help you win your fantasy championships, and eBay Motors knows that a championship team is all about each player being a perfect fit. The same goes with your vehicle. With eBay Guaranteed Fit and over 122 million parts and accessories for your vehicle right at your fingertips, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Air filters, brakes, batteries, taillights, alternators, shock struts, you name it, eBay Motors has it, and they'll make sure that it's the right fit for your car. Because eBay Guaranteed Fit helps you understand exactly what part you need for your vehicle the first time. So go forth, switch gears, crank the AC, and say goodbye to sweating in your ride if your ride needs a little fixing up, because now you'll always be set up for success from the get-go. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, everything your vehicle is calling for is just a click away. For the parts and accessories that fit your vehicle, just look for the green check. Go the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices at ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. All right, guys, continuing on with today's episode of Locked On Commanders. Thanks again for making Locked On Commanders your first listen of the day, every day, especially post-practice everydayers. Make sure you come back tomorrow. We are back out here at practice in Ashburn, Virginia. We will continue looking at this team, continue observing. Of course, if you want to send in any questions for future mailbag episodes to come, you can do so by dropping them in the YouTube comments. You can email them to lockedoncommanders@gmail.com, or you can text them directly to me by going to joinsubtext.com/lockedoncommanders, getting new additions to the subtext family on an almost daily basis. I greatly appreciate all of you who are coming through there. And I'm sending my text messages throughout practice to those guys. I'm sending some notes and observations. We did some running drills out here to begin practice, some goal line running drills specifically, and some other running drills. And I sent down my breakdown, kind of charted each play and made notes from all the plays and sent those out to the subtexters as well. And of course, continuing subtexters to request the player interviews that you guys see on this show. Those are coming from Commanders fans like yourself. So if you want to get on all that fun, join subtext.com/lockedoncommanders again is where you need to go. Now, time for our Howell Watch Day 6. And in the first set of 11 on 11s, it was Jacoby Brissett on the field for the first time. But it was the second team offense. And make no mistake about it, it was the second team offense. Eric Bieniemy saying second team. Jacoby Brissett and the second team offense got out there against the first team defense, however, to start the 11 on 11 session. So that was something that was a little bit new for today's situation. Let me drop this eBay banner for you so that kind of goes away there. We do love eBay Motors, but we don't want to keep that up there the entire time, do we? So Sam Howell and the first team offense got the second crack at the 11s, and they went up there against the second team defense. Talked to a veteran NFL player about that very situation. Kind of said, what's the impact here? What's the point here? And essentially said, look, especially when you're installing new plays, which the Commanders did install a new shuffle pass that I know you guys have seen on Twitter and all that stuff by now. So I'll go ahead and talk about it openly. They installed this play. So sometimes when you're installing new plays, especially trickier type plays to execute, you want to put the second team defense out there because you still want those guys to be able to go as full speed as possible. But let's be real, you're putting some lesser talented guys on the field. It's certainly not Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne, Chase Young, all that stuff. And so your first team offense gets to kind of ease into operating that play against a live defense. And then later on, you'll see it instituted against the first team defense. So that's essentially the explanation that we got here for why NFL teams will sometimes do that. And then, of course, your second team offense is going up against your first team defense. So if you need to rely on Jacoby Brissett at some time in the future, he's now getting reps against your first team defense. So there's a dual kind of benefit to that. So in Sam's first set of 11 on 11s, a lot of runs going on in that play, but Sam Howell did throw the ball twice. He completed both of those passes, one of them to the left side to wide receiver Jahan Dotson, who was running his route against Quan Martin, who was in coverage. And then the next pass that he completed was a play action pass to Curtis Samuel, who actually lined up in the backfield in shotgun before heading out. And then he hit a right out route to Dotson. Sorry, so the pass was to Dotson. The play action was to Curtis Samuel. That was the first set, going 2 for 2 in 2 pass attempts there for the Washington Commanders' first team offense. In the second set, we worked goal line. So obviously very tight quarters, very close quarters for the defensive players and the offensive players. And Howell started off 0 for 1. But F.A. Obata, man, got very, very quick penetration through the offensive line there and caused a lot of problems. So Sam Howell ended up dirtying the screen ball, which, again, you don't like to see that kind of stuff against your offense. But I will always say I appreciate quarterbacks that don't take practice sacks and just say, oh, well, it happens. KJ Henry came in for a tackle for loss on the second play. It was a run play. And then Khalil Hudson actually came in, filled a run gap, and was able to make a tackle at the line of scrimmage in the goal line situation. So your second team defense stepping up against your first team offense, which could be concerning, but also is very, very encouraging for guys like KJ Henry and Khalil Hudson. And then you got the shuffle pass. So Sam Howell going 1 for 2, the shuffle pass to Logan Thomas for a touchdown. So obviously the play that they installed went very, very well. Set 3 didn't start off so hot. A fumbled exchange on a run play between Sam Howell and Antonio Gibson. From my angle, it looked like Sam Howell basically just left it short. So the fumble would be credited to Sam Howell, and I think it was deserved by Sam Howell. Montez Sweat got in for a sack on the second play of the game. The third play was an 0 for 1 start for Sam Howell. Bootleg right deep down the middle to De'Ami Brown was broken up by Benjamin St-Juste. I will say this, though, and this isn't meant as criticism, just my personal opinion. Defensive backs coach for the Washington Commanders was in the middle of the field, and as the ball was coming through, was basically telling Benjamin St-Juste where to look and where to go to break up the pass. To me, I don't know. You can't do that. Like, you can't stand on the field in a game and tell Benjamin St-Juste where the ball is coming from. So I don't know. I don't think you should be able to do that in practice. Maybe if you're standing on the sideline doing it, okay, and we'll see if that changes things. But anyway, that's my own old man yells at cloud moment. Second pass of the set was completed over the middle to Logan Thomas, Cody Barton in coverage, and then the third pass, an out route to the left side of the formation to Terry McLaurin. Not completed, but I'm pretty sure that Benjamin St-Juste would have been flagged for defensive pass interference on that play, and I'm not the only media member who thought so. Moving on to the fourth set for Sam Howell. Started off 1 for 1 with a dump off left side to Brian Robinson Jr. to escape pressure. Then he went 1 for 2, incomplete screen pass blown up by Chase Young, who he ran around Charles Leno like Charles Leno Jr. wasn't even moving. It was pretty fast off the line. So Chase Young, again, looking very, very good here this training camp. The third pass was a non-pass because it should have been a sack. Chase Young got to Sam Howell, got a hand on his back before he threw the ball. However, Sam Howell did throw a beautiful pass when he did throw the ball to Terry McLaurin, who had beaten Emmanuel Forbes on the right sideline. Terry McLaurin making a great catch on the route as well. Third pass was incomplete. Curtis Samuel over the middle was the target. Went to jump up for the ball, and I'm pretty sure you heard Derek Forrest's feet coming, or steps coming, and even in friendly confines and even in training camp, Curtis Samuel decided to take the business decision, not get leveled. So that ball falls incomplete. So 1 for 3 in the final set of the day. Not great, but 5 for 10 overall, 50% again, not great, but a touchdown, no interceptions, which I think is important to talk about as we talk about a young quarterback. Yeah, you want the percentage, the completion percentage a little bit higher if you can get it there, but the fact that you're getting no interceptions in 11-on-11 today, and only, again, one that I put on Sam Howell directly in 11-on-11 so far, the training camp is pretty promising, if you ask me. So we're going to wrap up this episode with 3 player interviews, including one with new Commanders linebacker Cody Barton. Since we couldn't get him yesterday, we got him on Tuesday out here in Ashburn, Virginia. That's coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders. Wrapping up this training camp episode of Locked On Commanders out here in Ashburn, Virginia, following day 6 on Tuesday of Washington Commanders training camp practice. We're going to hit 3 player interviews that I was able to get with guys coming off the field after practice. We're going to start with Washington Commanders offensive tackle Alex Akingbulu. All right, Alex, this is the day we have been waiting for. Pads on for the first time. How's it feel to be in those pads for the first time this season?
It feels good, man. It kind of reminds you why you love playing football. Just the thumping, just the sound of that. People talking their talk, everything. It's a great atmosphere. The fans are out, so it was fun, man. Just get to, hit people. I love it.
Yeah, man. What's that first rep like when you guys were? I think it was goal line y'all did first. What was that first pop like?
It's just exhilarating, man. It kind of snaps you back into that mode. Yeah. After that first one, then it's like, okay, we're in it now. So you just got to keep going. Rely on your teammates. Everybody's bringing the energy, so I'm excited.
Absolutely. How is it having the fans out here for this too?
It's great, man. Great. They bring the energy every single time, man. It's, you know, just from last year to this year, it's a crazy change, and we appreciate all the fans that's coming out.
Absolutely, man. So I charted all the one-on-ones, and by my account, you went undefeated today. So how's that feel?
I appreciate you saying that. You know, just go back, watch film, look what I did good, look what I could improve on. I'm just excited, man. Like, you know, the guys are excited too. It's a lot of good competition going on, a lot of talented guys. So I'm just blessed to be in a position to, you know, show what I can do.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts, Travell Wharton? I mean, you worked with him obviously before, but now the full-time offensive line coach. What's your thoughts on Coach Wharton?
Man, Coach Wharton, man, he's a player's coach. He's obviously been a player, so he knows how the trenches are and stuff like that. So I've just been picking his brain. Last year he was with the younger guys a lot too. So just picking his brain, really, just you know, all the stuff he's learned from playing the position, and just, you know, listening to what he has to say. We have other guys in the room too, Charles Leno, you know, other guys, Coach Juan. So there's a lot of experience in the room. A lot of guys, you know, who know what they're doing. So I'm just leaning on those guys and just taking what they coach and just apply it.
And then Coach Juan Castillo was with the tight ends last year, but he's with y'all this year. What do you think about him?
Coach Juan too, man. Coach Juan and Coach Warren, they've been working great together, just giving us, you know, the best looks, the best tips, the best, you know, just advice to, you know, put our best foot forward. And, you know, I love that they're letting us play, you know what I'm saying? They're letting us show what we can do, athletic guys, letting us get in space and let us use our talents to, you know, the best of our abilities.
Yes, sir. And I got to ask everybody, what's up with EB? What do you think about EB?
Love EB, man. That's my type of guy, man. He was in LA for a bit, so I could kind of like, I feel that LA swag about him, but he's holding everybody accountable. And that's what you want from, you know, the head guy. So, yeah, man, we're excited to have him. We love the plays, the playbook. He's bringing the energy, you know, that we need. So it's like, just excited, man, just to show what we can do put it on film.
Yes, sir. I appreciate your time, man.
I appreciate you.
All right, again, that was Washington Commanders offensive tackle Alex Akingbulu. A fun fact about Akingbulu, he's also an Afro-pop musician, right? He's in a musical group called YDN, the Afro-pop group. He turned me on to the group's music last year, and it's now a regular on my rotation in my Apple Music library. So if you've never heard it, or you've never listened to Afro-pop, highly recommend it. And I'm going to recommend you start with a song called Showdown, one of my favorite songs. Another one of my favorite songs, Be Me, Castle is another one of my favorite songs. And again, that group is YDN. I'm actually going to link a playlist of their songs that Akingbulu himself created last year on Spotify down in the show description. So if you want to check it out, you can simply go click the link and it'll take you to a playlist. It's pretty good stuff. So I think you're going to like that. But next, let's hear from defensive lineman Benning Potoa'e. All right, Benning, it's the day that at least us on the sidelines watching, we've been waiting for first day in pads. So what was like this morning getting suited up in those pads for the first time this year?
It felt good. It felt really good. It actually feels like things just started getting going. Everybody's able to kind of get comfortable in contact, colliding, going against each other at real speed. So I think everybody had a good time out there. It was comfortable getting to feel it again, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What's that first pop like? I think you guys started off in goal line. What's that first hit like of the day?
It's well needed. I'll tell you that much. Once you get that first hit in, all the jitters, all the butterflies go away, and you kind of get to play comfortable, play loose, kind of be able to settle in, and you know, it kind of reminds you how things feel and how things feel at full speed. So it feels good. It feels good to get it out the way.
Absolutely. And then I was watching one-on-ones, and according to my media expertise, which, you know, varies on the level of expertise, but it looks to me like you won all your reps today. So how does that feel?
It feels good. It feels really good. Obviously, it's a game of competition. We're out here competing against each other. Everybody out here is very talented in what they do, so it's good to win. Obviously, you know, we're competing, so it felt good today.
Absolutely, and I mean, it might just be me, man. I haven't seen you in a while, but you look faster this year. You look a little bit quicker. Do you feel faster and quicker this year?
Yes, I feel more explosive. I feel good where I'm at. I did a lot of work this offseason, so it feels good to be back and see how things translate into football. So it feels good.
And a lot of expectations for the defense, but specifically the defensive front. How do you feel about your room and the group of guys you got?
Phenomenal. I mean, with John and Payne leading the way and everybody just following, being able to work hard, and just them setting the example, seeing them do what they do and kind of just, you know, mimicking what they do, just kind of paves the way for us and allows us to just work hard and do what they do, as hard as we can. So.
Absolutely. Now, spending time with the Buccaneers before you arrived here in the DMV, obviously you got to play with a guy like Vita Vea, who's making his mark in the NFL. Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne, certainly making their marks. What are kind of the similarities between the defensive tackles you worked with, and what are some of the differences that stood out to you as well?
They don't complain. That's one thing that stands out to me the most about those three guys that you just named. No complaining. They're really just here to work, and they find the good in everything, even when it's kind of hard to. Seeing things, when it's going wrong, if you're losing, if you're not having a good day, they find a good way to kind of flip it upside down. And I think that's the secret to them, just continuing to strive, just having that mindset behind them. It's very inspiring to watch, to be behind over there at Tampa, behind Vita, over here behind Daron Payne.
All right, so again, that was Washington Commanders defensive lineman Benning Potoa'e. We're going to finish it up with new Washington Commanders linebacker Cody Barton. All right, Cody, first and foremost, obviously your first year here in Washington. How are you liking the DMV? How are you liking the Commanders?
I mean, as far as the area, I love it. And, being on this team, I'm really loving it here. Teammates are awesome. Everyone's professional. Everyone's real cool. And, everyone's just got good chemistry and good energy about it.
And obviously, I mean, the 12s, right, are famous for being really good fans out there in Seattle. But, I mean, we hear them in the background here. We got a good fan turnout here as well.
Yeah,
what do you think about Commanders fans?
Yeah, the turnout here the last week and going into this week has been awesome. It's been packed every single day that they've been letting fans in. And so, I'm happy with the support and, excited for the season to get rolling around and see the turnout.
Absolutely. First day in pads today. What's it like strapping those pads on for the first time this season?
It feels good. You don't. Last time you put on pads is your last season of the previous year, So then you wait a long time for that time to put on pads again, and it feels good, clinking them back up, touching them a little bit, but no, it is fun, and got to thud up a little bit today. It was good.
Absolutely. I talked to some Seattle media members when you got signed here, and they all kind of told me that you were misutilized a little bit in Seattle. I'm not going to ask you to comment on that, but do you feel like this scheme really kind of accentuates your talents?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw you blow up a play earlier. I mean, I think it was a B-gap run, just hit right through there. How does it feel when you get to hit that gap and hit that running back and know that you made a big play for your defense?
It feels good, and I'm trying to, even though I am still new to this team, I feel like I'm earning some respect from my teammates, but I still feel like every day I got to come out here and, earn more respect from my teammates and earn that, that whatever you call it, just to be alongside them. And, the way to do that is just play good ball and make plays.
Absolutely. So some of my Locked On Commanders listeners and viewers specifically asked me to find time with you and interview you for the show. So what do you have to tell them about who you are as a player and what you mean for the Commanders fan base?
Telling who?
The Commanders fans.
Play fast, play smart. I'm a high energy guy, always gonna be around the ball. And I love y'all's support. When you guys get rocking in the stadium, I look forward to seeing y'all in September. All
right, so that was new Washington Commanders linebacker Cody Barton, and that is how we're going to wrap up this training camp practice episode of Locked On Commanders. Day 6 in the books, back out here tomorrow for day 7 as we continue through week 2 of 2023 NFL training camp. If you've got questions or comments, just drop them into the YouTube comment section. Hit me up on Twitter. Hit me up in email form at lockedoncommanders@gmail.com or text me directly from your cell phone, and my responses will come directly to you in the form of a text as well by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders. As always, I want to thank you, Commanders fans, for making Locked On Commanders your first listen or view of the day every day and every day. I greatly appreciate you coming through on a consistent basis like you do. I continue to appreciate the Locked On Commanders viewers and listeners that are saying hi to me out here at training camp practice. Please continue to do so. If you're coming out here, don't hesitate to say hi. Thank you so much for making me a part of your day, part of your football routine. And if you've got anything else Commanders related you want to discuss, just find me on Twitter at dharrison82. Until we speak again, please be safe, be kind, and I'll see you next time for another episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.